whatever the room wants to see. Looks like I got a Snapchat. That way. Okay, so we're going to manage Drupal sites using a Drupal site. If you want to follow along with me, you can look, or you can reference this later anyways, from this website down here. And if you want to follow live, you can do that also by clicking that. So, here we go. Yeah, the first point of contention is how to pronounce the word. Aegir. It's a good question. So there's an Icelandic phonology. Remember all that means? I did talk to a French-speaking person yesterday, and this is probably correctly pronounced something like Aegir. I can't do the French sound. But we tend to say Aegir or Aegir or Aegir or Aegir or whatever you want. So yeah, first of all, I want to give you like an overview and then put Aegir into context as to how it's used. So in order to use Aegir, you have to have an environment for it, which is going to be your Linux, your Apache or Nginx server, your MySQL database, and PHP processor. So here are some references. You can go to these. These are links, by the way, so if you use this site, you can go right to these. You can go to the Aegir handbook, and they'll walk you through with an intro, a user manual, and an administrator manual on getting it installed on some environment that you might want to put it on. One of the views shows a page like this. So through the installation guide, you can have automatic installs on Debian, and they have a whole page for manual installs. It's doable for just about anybody to walk through step by step and to make this happen if you want to put it on your own environment. A couple of alternatives would be to use something called Aegir Up, which is a Drupal.org project. I'm not going to go into this, but they have their own tutorials and scripts to get it up and running. You're going to need VirtualBox and Vagrant in order to do those. Another alternative is something called DevShop, which is another Drupal project. In DevShop, you have the ability to control your file systems with Git. So you have automatic Git provisioning built into the Aegir environment. And then there's another option that I like to use called Omega 8. It's an enhanced version of Aegir, and it ends up on a secure, high-performance Linux installation. I'll talk about this a little bit more later on. So when you're going to host a website, a Drupal site, there's common places that people will tend to put it. Some of the basic options are like a Lowell server or a Rackspace server. They're really inexpensive. You end up with a self-managed environment. You have root access, so you can provision a Linux distribution on either of those, and then you can run through the Aegir tutorial of the Aegir website, for example, and end up with a working functional Aegir server environment. May not be secure, may not be high performance, probably better suited for development, but if you know your IT stuff and your server administration stuff, by all means go ahead and use one of those options. Three other options that I'm going to talk about kind of comparison is going to be between Acquia, Pantheon, and Omega 8. Omega 8 has some really good comparisons that they've written up. Of course, they wrote it, so everything's slanted, maybe slanted. If what they say is true and accurate, I think Omega 8 is the way for most individuals to go. Anyway, some of the comparisons you'll look at with these. Acquia is considered self-managed because you have to manage your server performance if you get hit by a heavy load, DOS attacks, stuff like that. And Omega has those discussions. They'll kind of walk you through a little bit of that. So Acquia is going to offer in that way. But Acquia does offer a standalone local development environment with one-click deployment to their production server. So if you want to host a site on Acquia, you can have a development site really easily on your own. And I'm actually using that now, the development part. Because I've got everything on my Windows. I decided to just try that for a while, and it's working really nice. And Pantheon, I understand it's fully managed, so they will help handle the load, the traffic, and the attacks, and all those kinds of things. And then within the Pantheon environment, when you're doing dev state production stuff, they have something set up so you can just one-click through to those different environments. Now, the third option here, which is really different than the other ones, Omega 8 offers an Aegir environment, which is what we're talking about today, Aegir. And it's enhanced, so it's not your standard Aegir installation like you would have installed through the tutorial, but it's a self-managed environment. You can install a self-managed environment with root access when you want it to be development or a production server, and all of it is done using their open source software. So there's a lot of advantages to that. You can also host on Omega HCC servers, fully managed. You get protected non-root access, and that means that you can do everything you need to do with Thrush and Git and other Drupal-related things, but you're in a protected environment, so you can't screw up other sites, you can't screw up the server. You have a question?
Could you tell my friends on my website about what this
You did at the beginning.
about?
You asked me then. Sorry.
Okay, so part of the comparison Omega 8 provided between the three groups, they compared the minimal cost for one site, for 5 sites, for 10 sites, and their open SSL support. And so the pricing for these, for Acquia, is at those numbers roughly. Pantheon is considerably more if you have more than one site than Acquia, and then Omega CC is considerably less. Difficult comparison to make because they operate under different philosophies, so you get different. There's different pros and cons between the different companies. And then I guess I should go a little bit more into Aegir and BOA, because using Omega 8 is using BOA, which stands for Barracuda, Octopus, and Aegir. So the Barracuda part of it pre-configures the entire server stack for you on a Linux distribution. The Octopus part will pre-configure your Aegir hostmaster. That is the website that you then will manage all of your websites inside there with. You can do multiple Octopus installations on a single Barracuda server. And each one is protected from the other ones. They're isolated environments. And then once you're in the Aegir hostmaster, you typically have, through the BOA system, pre-configured Drupal platforms. They have a whole bunch of supported platforms that are available right out of the box. They have unsupported ones. They also allow you to do custom platforms. One of the big benefits to using Aegir in any of these environments is you will manage your site and your database together. So you never have to go to the database and create a database and create a user. It does that for you, and it keeps your site connected with your database. Getting into the Drupal environment, the Drupal site under Aegir, you'll probably recognize, the multi-site, you'll probably recognize the platform, sites, modules, themes. Way on the left is the default. Typically, for most people, that's where all of your site files are going to be, is in default versus domain A or domain B trees. With multi-site under Aegir, they never use default. That's been one of the complications for me using multiple development environments. Is I'm dealing with ones now that want to create the site under default, and it doesn't even know what to do with the multi-sites. I've got other ones that, well, typically that's what I run into, where Aegir never uses multi-site, or never uses default. But one thing to keep in mind is anything in the all folder is available to every site on the platform. So we can try using Aegir. Hopefully you guys have some ideas on how you'd like to try it. We can add a platform. We can add a site to the platform. We can do several things with the site. And then finally, to upgrade the Drupal core and or the modules, what you would do is migrate your site to a new platform. So you never do an upgrade on the site itself. You create another platform that's upgraded, and then you move your site into that platform. So I'm ready to do some Aegir.
Let's launch some sites.
Yes, I need some feedback. Questions, comments, requests?
Given that there was a new Drupal core release on Wednesday, we can try upgrading the Drupal 6 site to 7.27. Just like an idea.
Okay. In the BOA environment, I would then have to create a static or a custom platform. Typically, the way BOA environment is designed is you wait for them to create the high-performance, highly secure, customized version of the new Drupal. Because they've got a way of doing all that. But we can gladly quickly set up a new platform.
Well, let's launch something.
Let's do it.
What if we set up a Panoply site?
Let's launch a Monopoly site.
Okay, on an existing platform?
On a new, I know Lars he uses Omega 8, and I had to go in there and look at this, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing or how to use this interface. So I think it'd be neat, like, let's say that you're going to host this, and every site you're going to build on is a Panoply site.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, like, thinking of that, because I see using this as software as service. Like, you're just going to flip one platform over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
How would we do that?
Okay, so I need to know what environment we're going to work in. Are we going to be just on a plain Aegir?
Let's do plain
Or
Aegir.
do you want some
BOA first, because there's a lot of cool stuff in BOA.
What?
Yeah.
Let's see BOA first.
BOA? Okay.
Because that's the use case I see. Unit is just, you have client sites, just flip them on one platform, and like, how does that work in the?
Actually, I give some of my clients access to the Aegir I use to manage my servers, and depending on what I've sold them, some of them can launch their own sites, which is pretty cool.
Okay, this is a new BOA installation. I spun up the server and I installed the BOA scripts, and all in about 25 minutes total time it took from start to finish. And so I have a new high-performance, high-security server. It's got the host master. This is the site that we're actually looking at right now. And you see the toolbar up there and the Aegir and all the options and everything and the menus. That is this website right here. Okay? Earlier I added one new site. It's a Garter site using a Garter profile. We can talk about that a little later. But what you want to do is to set up a new Panoply site. So when I did this BOA install, I gave it the option of installing all the platforms that they support. So all of these are different platforms that I can readily install websites into. And there is one, there's a Panoply one in here. It's version 7.26. And if you look at it, you'll see that there are no sites now in my Panoply distribution. So I want to add a site. And I'm going to make sure to pick that Panoply option. I'm going to give it a name. What can our name be?
Panoply of my goodness.
I'm not gonna do that. But I'll give it a root that, we can use.
Monopolifile.
I have a couple of other options really quickly. I can turn cron on or off. I can add aliases right away. There's a CDN option.
Aliases as in like server name aliases or like drush alias?
Domain name.
Okay.
Yep.
Why do you want to have cron disabled?
Because I don't want cron running on my server for that site. I have no purpose for it.
Normally, you would always have cron running though. For that purpose.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and so I clicked this done. We have to wait now.
And that previous page was actually the node add form for a site node. So this is all a Drupal site. And the sites are themselves nodes, the platforms are nodes, the servers are nodes.
How does cron work?
Here's what's happening in the background of Aegir. It wants to process this thing, which hasn't processed yet. So it's waiting for it to process. I'm going to go to, now we're, there, it did start now. So these are the steps that it takes. It runs this drush command first. And going through these different tasks, so right now it's on this step. It's running now.